Yo, what's up guys, it's Bamber here, and today we're going to react to why did Spain give Florida away for free? Let's get into it.
In 1821, Spain ceded Florida to the United States in return for basically nothing. But given that Spain was not in the habit of just giving away land and that Florida's position made it an important part of protecting its Caribbean colonies, why did Spain just give it away? So, Spain had dominated the Caribbean and the lands around it since the early 16th century. But France did take the territory around the Mississippi River in the late 17th century, which it held on to until the 7 Years' War. The French knew that they were likely going to lose their continental North American territories and so secretly handed them over to Spain. The idea being that if taken from a defeated France, Britain could have all of it. But if taken from Spain, the threat of a long-standing permanent border would mean that Britain wouldn't take as much in case there was a future war over it. In the end, this didn't matter because Britain's primary concern was protecting its American colonies from external threats. As such, it took this from what it thought was France and this from Spain. Britain kept Florida until the American Revolution, in which Florida actually stayed loyal. However, Spain's help to the United States meant that it got to retake it in the peace treaty afterwards. As you'll likely know, the early 1800s were a bad time for Spain. France's new ruler, Napoleon, was enjoying some newfound strength, which meant that he could pressure the Spanish into trading France's old American territories in exchange for Spain gaining some client states in Italy. Napoleon promptly sold said territories, Louisiana, to the United States. And soon afterwards he just took the Italian lands he had just given to Spain for France anyway. So after its independence, the United States had tried to purchase Florida from Spain, but to no avail. The Spanish refused to sell because its location meant that it could be used as a base to protect Spain's Caribbean colonies. And after the Napoleonic Wars were over, it was an important base for helping the Spanish Navy crush revolts. At this point, the United States was in an expansion-y sort of mood, and it wanted to manifest its destiny across the entire continent. This led to Americans settling this part of West Florida, who then promptly revolted against Spain, and so to restore order, the American government sent in troops and annexed the territory. The US continued to launch incursions into the rest of Florida as a part of the First Seminole War, and large chunks of Florida were subsequently occupied to prevent any further raids into the United States. The Spanish were naturally furious about this, but since they were busy watching their empire crumble around them, there was nothing they could do about it. Fearing the Americans were just going to keep taking more and more of their North American territory, the Spanish signed the Adams-Onis Treaty. During this, the Spanish agreed to hand over Florida to the United States, and in return the border would be set to this. This meant that the US renounced its claim to these lands and Spain gave up its claim to these. For the Americans, this was a massive win, since in return for essentially nothing, they had just won a clear path to the Pacific and also gained Florida, which ended the eyesore of having an incomplete territory, gave them much greater control of the waterways around their nation, and ended a potential backdoor onto the American continent and an extra border to defend. For the Spanish, they had hoped that this treaty would secure the north of their empire, but before long, Mexico had broken free. Now, as the successor to New Spain, Mexico did technically have a claim to Florida, but its government was much more interested in maintaining good relations with its powerful neighbour to the northeast. And with that, Florida, like much of Spain's American empire, was lost to it forever, for the low price of nothing. I hope you enjoyed this episode with a special...
Well, that was pretty interesting actually. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video, and yeah, let me know in the comments what else you want to see, and I'll see you guys later.